Welcome back to the Yoga Chat. I'm your host, Montana,
I am your host, May.
and I'm in a
Welcome.
vibey little room today without my equipment, aka Yoga 6.
You're raw dogging it.
I am raw dogging it. So I wonder how
You're
this
raw dogging this
audio is
podcast,
probably going to sound exactly the same.
probably.
Um,
Um,
cool. Well, today's a quickie duo episode, and so we thought we'd talk about a few things. One, May, what did you want to chat about? Let's talk about that first.
just the fucking winter fuck sucks. And that's the only way I know how to put it, is just that winter really is getting to me this year. And I don't know if it's because I literally went to Mexico and came back from Mexico and it was just fucking winter. Like there was no easing into it. We went from a nice fall, warm fall to just winter. And I could literally talk about it all day. And I'm going to be dramatic about it and I'm going to be
Yeah.
mad about it and I'm allowed.
Yeah, you are. I think too, like the inconsistency of the weather also
Yeah.
makes it harder. I remember when I first moved here, like almost 12 years ago, which is crazy. And people are like, how do you live in the cold? And I'm like, well, when it gets cold, it stays cold. So you acclimate to it.
Mhm.
And this winter, it's going like snow, rain, snow, rain. And I think that's why so many people are getting sick. And I
Yeah.
think that's why when it gets cold, like today, it's even worse because it's like we
Mhm.
can't get acclimated to it.
Right.
Um, and May texted in our teacher WhatsApp group, like, hey, what do you guys do to stay like accountable and like not even accountable, but
Your
like,
head above water, essentially.
yeah, like how do you stay
Motivated.
motivated to do the practices that make you feel good when you don't feel like getting out of fucking bed? And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of like the overarching theme of what everyone was saying was just like, fuck it, do what you want to, like, give yourself grace to just like
Yeah.
not do anything and let that be a practice of like being okay with like Brittany said, having the Diet Coke, and that's like the thing that you did for yourself today.
Yeah. I think our main answers were if you want to stay in bed and wallow, then stay in bed and wallow for a little bit. If you want to go get a sweet treat at Starbucks, go get a sweet treat at Starbucks. My thing was that I have a Costco card now and it's like a loaded gun in my pocket. And when I walk in there and I'm not feeling too great, I end up buying 10-pound bags of chocolate covered almonds and foot massagers and weird
That
fuzzy
does sound
socks
great.
that I'm going to end up giving to Goodwill next year. It's just stupid. But mostly, like, I think it's just a lot of us just basically said, because we all obviously teach yoga and we're physically active and we value, movement, or otherwise none of us would be doing this. But so people that value movement and are used to moving regularly, and then they get to a stalemate where they don't want to do anything, it's just hard to be okay with that. And I think it's
Yeah.
just like, I can lay in bed for 2 hours and honor my need for that, but at the same time, those whole 2 hours, I'm like, "I should be up doing something. I should be doing this. I could go for a walk. I should do my home practice. I should do the dishes." And instead, I'm just fucking rotting in bed. But I also sometimes rotting in bed just feels really, really good. I guess it's just like, how do you figure out a way to give yourself the quiet and the stillness while not beating yourself up for it is the hard question, because
Yeah.
I'll allow myself to lay around for an hour or 2, but I'm not pleased with myself about it, and I shouldn't be beating myself up about it.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's really hard. I don't know the answer, but like what's coming to mind. So yesterday in our 300 hour, which was at her daughter's choir concert. Is that right? Was it choir?
Orchestra.
Orchestra concert. So she will watch the recording, but Emily Porterand, who's been a guest on the show, came and was our guest speaker, and she was talking about, so in a different way, but in a very similar way, she had hip surgery a few months ago, and she was talking about how like, a lot of people talk about starting yoga. Most people start yoga with the movement and then they find the spirituality and stuff down the line. And she was like, and there's no denying that I've experienced my experience has been similar to that. And she was like, but also like, um, I like breath work when it's incorporated in an asana practice. And I like meditation when it's incorporated like in movement or before or after movement. And she was like, but I finally got to the point in my life where like I am okay saying that like the physical movement of my body is what I like the most about yoga. And like, I shouldn't be, I shouldn't feel like I'm not doing yoga if I like the movement
Mhm.
the most. And she's like, and it goes beyond yoga. Like she likes to ride her mountain bike and she, lifts weights. And so since she had her hip surgery, she hasn't been able to do any of that. And it's been really, really grueling for her because she's essentially been forced to like find new ways of practicing yoga and like also moving her body in very different ways than she did pre hip surgery. Also, it was a hip replacement, I should say. I don't know if I said
Oh,
replacement.
wow.
And if I could be mistaken, so don't quote me on this, but I want to say it's her second. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and all that to say, like yesterday, she was talking about the peaks and valleys and how like everyone talks about peaks and valleys. But it's like inevitable that whenever you're in a lull or you're in a valley, that you're just like there and you're like, I need to get to the peak again. I can't wait to get to the peak again. I'll be better when I get to the peak again. And she was like, recently she has been forced to practice, like recognizing that the valley is not any worse than the peak and the peak isn't any better than the valley and that the peak could not exist without the valley. And she used an example of like when you're in the hospital and you're on not life support, but like when you have like the heart thing connected to
Yeah.
you. She was like literally when it goes flat is
You're
when we have
dead.
problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she was like, even like the rhythm of our heart when we're in like a medical space has peaks and valleys, and that is what keeps us alive. Um,
Mhm.
and so that was, and I didn't even think of that before we started recording until we started talking. But I think that's really hard for our society to remember that like the valley isn't necessarily a point to get
Run
excited
away from.
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead to just recognize that it has a different type of value. And then remembering to like not get stuck in the peak or the valley. Um, which is easier for someone that likes change, like myself, and harder for someone who doesn't thrive off change. Like I was thinking about you, May, like one of May's constant, continuous, consistent self practices is walking. So like there's no denying that fucking sucks when it's 20 degrees out, right? And like to find something that gives you the same amount of like happiness and like purpose as walking outside is going to be impossible because it's not that it will never be the same as walking outside. So I feel for you.
Yeah.
Um,
I forced myself out today, and the whole time in my head, I was like, "Fuck this! This is bullshit! I fucking hate this! I hate everything! Winter sucks, and I'm cold, and I hate life, and I want to die!" And then at the end, I got home, and I was like, "Okay, that wasn't so bad. At least I did it."
that sounds like how I feel about running, that exact like train of thoughts, which I have been also so many of us I know have been going through like in and out of not feeling well. And I normally would like push myself until I got to a point where I couldn't like get out of bed for 10 days. And so I'm really trying to avoid that. But that's
Mhm.
so frustrating because I'll get like a little wave of like a small fever and like aches and pains. And I'm like, fuck, I don't want to stop. And I also don't want to feel like I'm being like a pussy, for lack of a better word. Um, and like asking people to like help me out whenever it's not that bad. But also if I don't ask for help now, then I'm gonna have to ask for help for over a week. Like,
Bingo.
it's
That's the way to look at it. And also, like, it's so fucked up the conditioning that we all have that like we feel like you just said we feel like pussies when we need to like ask for help or slow down or not. But like I'm with you, and especially so there's a perspective, and this is why I asked a bunch of yoga teachers, because I feel like when you use your body as your work, you really have a different perspective of how you need to take care of yourself. Like, for instance, um, I will not like I am I will not do any abnormal adventure sports right now or since I started teaching yoga, because in the back of my head, all I think is if I hurt myself, I'm fucked. And that's not to say that I'm like going to hold myself back from doing the things I really want to do, but but even in terms of like when you start to feel burnt out, or when you start to feel, like you need a nap, or you need to get a sub or whatever, like in general, I think that slowing down a little bit before you get forced to slow down a lot is probably the better way to go. And so like,
Yeah.
yeah, you could like take a day to rest and to prevent yourself from getting sicker, or you could have shown up and worked and done the 5 classes you teach that day and then ended up needing to be fucking laid out for 10 days. And like then that's not good for anybody. It's not good for you.
Right.
It's not good for anybody that, so I think it's a hard balance as somebody, when you use your body as your work, you have to be more in tune with knowing when to slow the fuck down and do the thing that like, yeah, like walking, I could walk near death. You know what I mean? Like I that doesn't tax my body. It if anything, it gives me the energy that I need, like mentally. In the cold, I have to force myself a little extra to get out there just because it sucks, but, like, I still did it just because I knew that I would feel better afterwards, but I know what you mean, like, it's not there's a balance of, like,
Mm.
honoring your responsibilities and then slowing down in a way that, like, you can honor your responsibilities while you maintain, like, your energy levels, and you take care of your even if your energy levels are a little less, but it's a hard line to walk when,
Yeah. When as you're saying this, I thought of like really it's about like figuring out what your priorities are and where your top responsibilities lie in terms of like
yeah,
if you have to pull away from this responsibility, are you going to have other people take your place? So for
right,
example, like for my responsibilities, it's like, well, the classes that I'm teaching are right now at the top of my priority list because there's a lot of shades of gray. One, like there's so many other things that responsibilities that I have that can ebb and flow and not require other people to step in for me. And then also, whereas like me teaching a class, if I'm not there to teach the class, someone has to be there to teach the class.
right,
So, you know, knowing like that very fine line of like I can go there and give a little less energy than I normally would, being like, okay, maybe I don't embody the postures as much. Maybe I use more vocal cues. Um, or like, am I so sick that like I'm actually not able, or am I so not 100% that I'm actually not able to show up and do that? Well, if I'm able to show up and do that, even to like a lesser scale, which for those, if you're a yoga teacher listening, I promise you, no one notices. Like the amount,
yeah, you're right,
especially, and if someone does, it's like, if someone notices, like, if you, I think it's totally fair to be like, oh, well, I'm not feeling very well today. So I'm here and this is the
mhm,
100% that I can give today. And then like looking down the priority list, I don't know if I'm making any sense right now, but then it's like, okay, well, if I have a private lesson, right? Like if I reschedule that private lesson with enough notice, then that's not going to put anyone else in a pinch to have to cover for me, right?
right,
Me specifically, like I love to be with people and to hang out with my friends and to do extra shit. Well, that's on the bottom of my priority list, right? Whenever I'm not feeling well, those are things that I can cancel and reschedule. Even like my own workout routine, like, you know,
yeah,
I can either go to solid core and use my energy there and feel like shit when I'm teaching, or I can cancel the solid core class
and
and
teach your class, yeah,
exactly. So it's like really
yeah,
about like and recognizing that your priority list can change and will always change. But in the season of sickness, it's like, okay,
mhm,
well, what needs to be number one of my energy output, and what can wait until later. Even like another one of my responsibilities is to take classes from other teachers on the teaching team. And
yeah,
the past 2 weeks, I like today was the first class that I've taken in 2 weeks because I was like, if I can barely show up to my own classes to teach, like I cannot show up to someone else's and utilize energy there, which
mhm,
can be moved on my priority list when I'm not feeling
yeah.
well. Makes sense.
No, it
Um,
does. It does. I mean, it's a good way to look at it as priorities. Like there are priorities that are like, this is what pays my bills. This is the place that employs me. I have obligations to show up and do
Right.
these, 7 classes a week. And that is number one. Like it's the same as like when I had an office job.
Right.
I couldn't call out every time I wasn't feeling well, just because I had that type of job that my boss was like, "Oh, you have a headache? You're oh." But so like you just show up, you do the amount you can do in that
Mhm.
day. And then, you have to cancel your happy hour after with your friends, or you can't cook
Right,
the fancy dinner you had planned for your family and instead you order pizza or whatever. But like, yeah, there's definitely chunks and ways to look at like what do I have the actual energy for today outside of my actual obligations that like I am literally obligated to do, and then
right,
like try to make the rest work. So like on days where I teach 2 classes in the evening, I'm not going to do a big workout that day because I know
right.
I need energy to teach. And I don't know, I'll go for a walk instead. I'm not going to go kill myself, at solid core and then go teach 2 classes because I will be dead. And I don't know,
Yeah,
just time and energy management is something that's really it's different when you I mean, it's everybody has to deal with it, but I feel like since switching from an office job to this job, the way I have to manage my it's not even time, manage my energy is
energy.
just so much more at the top of my list, and it's not really something I ever thought much about before. But I guess that's literally one of the 8 limbs, like energy management, and I'm yoga's teaching me how to manage my energy while I'm managing my energy for yoga. It's like a big circle.
Yeah. And I'm not saying by any means that I'm a master at this because that's fucking hilarious if I were to say that. But what you're saying is also giving me more grace for people who are just now coming to realize that because I didn't recognize until you just said this that like I've like my body has always been my instrument essentially because I've
Mhm.
danced forever and that's always been my
Yeah,
number one priority. And so it's you sharing that reminds me to like give grace to people who are just now learning for the first time that like, oh, what I do for a living, how I make money is utilizing my body, which exerts a lot more energy
it really
than
does.
typing on a laptop. And
100%. And
I'll
it's not
say
even
that.
physical energy. It's like you can show up at an office
Oh,
job and be dead inside and sit at a computer all day and you can like not really have to smile at
leave it.
anybody. You just have to literally be a blob that's sitting in a chair that's typing on a keyboard. And I'm not putting down anybody that works in an
No, no,
office
no.
clearly. Like I've done it. I've done many years of
It's
it.
just different.
But just not even just bringing your physical body to teach a class, but the energy that you have to say the words and to share the space and to hold the space and to be aware of everyone else's energy and being able to speak to specific bodies. Like there is so much happening at once that it's just a different type of energy than just physically using your body to
Yeah.
model postures. It's just like a whole
It's
different thing.
also so similar to like service industry workers too. Like one of our
Yes.
friends, Amanda, who we'll have on the podcast eventually. I've said this forever, but we will. I went, my parents were in town and she works at Barcelona Wine Bar. And so we went to have a glass of wine, uh, just patronize her at the bar. And I saw her earlier that morning and she was like having a fucking day. Like she was just like,
Mhm.
I'm fucking tired. I don't want to be
Yep.
here. I want to lift these weights, but I'm going to do it. And then I got to the bar and like she was putting on a show, right? Like she
On. Yep. Totally.
doing her job. And I just like in that moment I remembered. I mean, I always know this, right? But it's like when you recognize it in real time, you're like, holy shit, like Amanda is not does not want to people today. And she's doing a really good job at peopling
Yep. No, literally. That's
with her
it's
physical
a
body.
it's a skill. And yeah, I've done service industry stuff too, and you could be having the worst day of your life and you still got to go smile at those tables and be friendly and make them feel like they're, welcome in your space or they're never going to come back.
Yeah. Or
So,
you don't get
it's
paid.
or you don't get paid. Yeah, exactly. And there's, people are dying to find an excuse not to pay you or tip you. So,
Yeah.
you don't want to give them one. But yeah, it's interesting just to think about, it's like a skill in itself to learn how to manage your energy so you can be the person you need to be in all the different facets of your life. And
Yeah.
I guess what I'm taking away from it, what you said is just like the ability to prioritize internally the things that you know you have to do that day and the things that can be pushed till tomorrow or next week. And I
Yeah.
guess that's the important thing to think is like if I have X amount of energy and I know that I have to go teach 2 classes later, I better store up some of that energy to make sure I have it for later instead of
Mm.
killing myself all day doing stuff that probably could wait.
Yeah. Totally. It's a dial. So just like recognizing
Yeah,
when the dial needs turned up or turned down. And
for sure. I also just want to share real quick some of the responses in our group chat because I thought it was
yeah,
I
do it.
thought some of them are really funny. Our our big responses really seem to be either rotting in bed, buying things, or sweet treats like Diet Coke, a latte, a little cake pop from Starbucks. Yes, sweet treats, naps, cry walking, walk crying. I don't really know if this is good advice for anybody that we're giving, but it's just
But
honest
I
advice.
think it's just a reminder that like whatever you need to do it.
Yeah,
And like don't beat yourself up over like making the only thing that you did that day going to Starbucks and getting a treat. Like that's fucking
right,
fine, right? And the
right.
next day it's just it's I think where there's the slippery slope is like, okay, now you've been doing the only thing you've been doing for yourself for a week is going to Starbucks and getting a sweet treat,
Right.
right? It's like,
Yeah. That's what I think is kind of another thing to think about and look at, though, is just in general. If you deny yourself those little things time after time after time, then
yeah,
I think is when you get to those situations where you end up going off the deep end and doing it for a week or two
yeah,
weeks, where like you work yourself to the bone until you literally hit a wall, and then you are laying in bed and eating sweet treats and crying yourself to sleep. So, like, I think allowing yourself those tiny little treats or those tiny little moments throughout your day where you like let yourself be a human prevents you from like really, really
hang out.
having some fucking mental burnout later on. So like,
Yeah,
yeah, have your fucking Diet Coke, skip your 6 mile run on the 15-degree day and like go for a little walk on a treadmill or something, or like
right.
just do little things so you don't end up doing the big fucked up thing.
Yeah, yeah,
If that makes
totally.
sense.
That makes perfect sense, honestly. Do little things so you don't end up doing the big fucked up thing.
That should be the quote of the
Quote,
episode.
Jay McCreary. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, the last thing that we want to chat about, if you haven't listened to last week's episode with Hannah Schlegel, get into it. It's so good. Um, I had someone come up to me this week and say that they listened to it, and one thing that they took away from it was when Hannah was talking about living from the neck up. And they were like, oh my God, I've been living from the neck up all year long. Like I am so disconnected from my body. And so I recognized through the episode that the only way to get back into my body is to start moving again. And so they started going to a yoga studio that they don't work at to get back into their bodies. And I thought that was really cool that like Hannah, and that's only one person that shared something with me, but there was a lot of like little sparks of inspiration through that and just sparks of like authenticity, which is what we're talking about right now, like giving yourself permission to just like do what it is that you need to do without punishing yourself or feeling guilty about it. And I think that's Hannah's like a great example of that. Really, I'm so excited. I got permission from Hannah to talk about this. So today, while we're recording, it's not aired yet or announced yet, but tomorrow, when this is posted, it will be announced that MindFuel Method officially has a brick and mortar studio. I wish that
Can
I
you hear
like
me
knew how to
clapping?
edit this. Yeah, I wish that I could like edit it and go like it sounds like I don't know where to
Or have like a laugh track or like a clap track like they do in sitcoms like Seinfeld?
Yeah, exactly.
Woo!
Yay. No, it's really cool. So they're going to be located in the terminal in the Strip District, right next to Deferred Coffee, to the left of
Do you
Deferred
think they'll
Coffee.
give us a friend and family discount? Because I want to go patron. I want to be a patron of this magical place.
So it's going to be really cool. So I don't want to speak too much about it because Hannah can speak better, but
Mm.
essentially it's 2 floors. The first floor is going to be a like studio space for like movement classes, yoga classes, meditation, breathwork, all that kind of stuff that you would see like in a studio space. And then downstairs is their contrast therapy space. So cold plunge and sauna. Um, Not only will there be movement based classes, there's also going to be like open times where you can just like on your lunch break go in and cold plunge and sauna, as well as contrast therapy guided sessions. So just like you can go to a yoga studio and be like, I'm going to take a power class at 4 o'clock. You can go to MindFuel Method at 4 o'clock. I'm making up the time. You can go to MindFuel Method at a certain time and go through a guided group contrast therapy session, which doesn't exist in Pittsburgh. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
that's cool.
cool. Yeah,
That is really
really
cool.
exciting. So if you want more information, follow MindFuel Method.
Imagine just like opening a business and doing something new
Yeah,
and like
I
that
know,
nobody else has
right?
done.
Yeah,
That's really
something that's
fucking cool.
totally your own.
Creative
Yeah,
and
your own
new and
creative.
authentic to them.
Yeah, crazy. So I'm very excited for Matt and for Hannah. Like I said, listen to Hannah's episode from last week. We also had Matt on in season 1, Matt Schwartz. So check him out too. Um, it's
Matt
really cool.
Shabasana Schwartz.
Yeah, that's him. I'm just so excited for them. I'm so excited to see what the future holds and to be a part of their community. And the strip district is my happy place. So I can already see it. I'm going to go to Solid Core. I'm going to kick my own ass. And then I'm going to walk across the street and I'm going to sauna and cold plunge. And I can't wait. So
Sounds lovely.
2025, the future is bright. All right. Well, that's all we have time for. So synopsis during the winter months and always, but during the winter months, whenever it's like actually seasonal and like as a human society and as nature, right? All of nature goes dormant. It is in our nature to give ourselves grace to pause and hibernate in whatever way it is best for you. And also congratulations to MindFuel Method. You guys are fucking doing the damn thing. And we're so excited for you. And congratulations on creating something totally brand new and your own. We couldn't be more proud of you.
I can't wait to come see it. It's going to be beautiful. Just based
It
on
is.
everything they've done so far, I feel like it's going to
Yeah.
be
And
perfection.
my really good friend Joe Ray Hassinger has been working with them on all of their marketing. Ashley Hoffman, who was the owner of Sweatnet Pittsburgh before it closed a few months ago, she's been doing all of their photography. So like it's the definition of like a communal collaboration. Like they're using the people in the community to be a part of everything from the ground up. Like even the pictures that they're using for their pre-sale marketing are from real people that go to MindFuel. I got to be a part of that, as well as like some other people that go to their events and have been following along with their journey. So real people doing real things, collaborating with other real humans is the fucking juice. Yep, crack it, baby. All right, well, have a great
Juice.
Friday, friends, and we will see you next time. Bye, May.
Okay. Wait. Stay on after just for a
Oh
sec.
God, another moment where you guys are like, what are they talking about? All
It's
right,
a
well,
big
yoga chat.
secret.
Peace.
Bye.